The summer I turned pretty was supposed to be over, right? Conrad got the girl, Jeremiah moved on, and Belly finally figured out what she wanted. Or at least that's what they wanted us to believe. But deep down, you and I both know this story doesn't feel finished. First of all, let's not pretend Belly and Conrad are riding off into the sunset all smooth and perfect. No way, their so-called reunion in Paris felt cute, sure, but it also felt rushed, forced, and honestly unrealistic. One minute Belly is pushing Conrad away, acting like she's too grown to be dealing with him. And the next minute she's chasing him onto a train declaring eternal love. Like, excuse me? What kind of whiplash romance is this? That's not healing, that's confusion. And if season 4 picks up right after that, we're going to see the cracks in their relationship show real quick. Because let's face it, Conrad has been carrying the ghost of his mother Susanna for years. And Belly has been bouncing between brothers like she's auditioning for a soap opera. They didn't magically fix those issues overnight just because Paris looked pretty in the background. Now here's where things get interesting. If you really think about it, Jeremiah is not out of the picture. Oh no, he might have been shoved into a side romance with Steven's colleague like some sloppy afterthought. But Jeremiah isn't the type to just vanish quietly. This is the same Jeremiah who fought Conrad tooth and nail for Belly's love, who practically lived in denial until she put a ring on her finger. And you're telling me he's just fine watching Belly and Conrad play house now? Yeah, right? You know there's a storm brewing there. And it's only a matter of time before Jeremiah either explodes or gets dragged back into this love mess whether he wants it or not. And trust me, if season 4 gives him a proper storyline, he won't just be the guy with the rebound girlfriend. He'll be the brother who comes back to claim what he thinks was stolen from him. But that's just the romantic mess. Let's not forget about the bigger picture. Belly still has her family, her so-called career path, and her own messy insecurities. We barely saw her mom's reaction to anything in season 3. Are we really supposed to believe Laurel is fine with Belly hopping across the globe, juggling to brothers, and treating love like a game of musical chairs? Nope, I see season 4 putting Laurel back into the spotlight. Maybe even confronting Belly about her choices in a way that forces her to grow up for real this time. And honestly, that's overdue. Because if we're being honest here, Belly still hasn't shown us she's capable of being in a mature relationship. She says she loves Conrad, sure, but how long until she feels trapped and starts spiraling again? Season 4 could be the season where Belly has to finally face the ugly truth that love isn't enough. If you don't know who you are, and speaking of ugly truths, let's talk about Conrad. Because yes, we all stan him, but let's not sugarcoat his flaws. This boy has been brooding since day 1, and season 3 didn't magically turn him into a healthy, well-adjusted adult. He has trust issues, he shuts people out, and he hides behind his quiet charm instead of saying what he really feels. Season 4 could finally break him wide open. Imagine him actually admitting the anger he holds toward his dad, or the guilt he feels about how messy things got with Jeremiah. Conrad might look like the one who won at the end of season 3, but the truth is, his battles are just starting. And I wouldn't be shocked if season 4 forces Conrad to either step up in a way we've never seen before or lose Belly all over again. Because remember, just because you win doesn't mean you keep it. And let's not ignore this little possibility. What if season 4 doesn't even stick to the love triangle as the main plot? What if it digs into Cousins Beach itself, into Susanna's legacy, into what the Fisher family actually left behind? There are years of drama, secrets, and trauma buried under those pretty sunsets. Maybe Belly and Conrad try to move on together, but ghosts from the past won't let them. And I don't mean literal ghosts, I mean the weight of everything Susanna set in motion. The pressure of living up to her dream of keeping the kids together. Season 3 hinted at it, but season 4 could expose it fully. Because let's be real, Susanna's prophecy that Belly would end up with one of her boys wasn't just romantic. It was controlling, toxic, and honestly unfair to all of them. And now, even with her gone, they're still trapped in it. That's not something a train station kiss can magically erase. So yeah, if you ask me, season 4 isn't going to be some cute Paris honeymoon phase. It's going to be the season where every choice Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah ever made finally catches up to them. The lies, the rebounds, the betrayals, it all comes crashing down. And as much as we love the pretty romance vibes, you know this show thrives on heartbreak, chaos, and drama. And trust me, we're about to get all three. Now, let's really dig into Jeremiah. Because you can't tell me his storyline is over. No way, this boy has been living in Conrad's shadow since the very beginning. And season 3 made him look like some sidekick who just got handed a random romance. So the writers wouldn't feel guilty about breaking his heart. But come on, Jeremiah is not the type of guy who just lets things go. If you watched his face throughout season 3, you know he still had that fire. That need to prove that he's not just the other brother. Season 4 could very easily flip the script and make Jeremiah the one who stirs everything back up. Think about it, Belly says she loves Conrad, she's finally choosing him. But the second Jeremiah steps back in the picture with his charm and his open-hearted energy, Belly will start questioning herself all over again. Because let's be real, Belly's biggest problem is that she doesn't know how to sit still with her feelings. She always wants what she doesn't have, and when she finally gets it, she starts wondering if it's enough. Jeremiah knows that, and if he plays it right, he can turn Belly's so-called happy ending into a brand new mess. And honestly, if Season 4 does give Jeremiah more screen time, I think we're going to see a different side of him. Because this rebound situation with Steven's colleague? Please, that was just a band-aid. You can't tell me Jeremiah is suddenly healed after Belly dumped him and picked Conrad right in front of his face. That type of heartbreak doesn't disappear in a few weeks. So imagine Jeremiah finally cracking. Imagine him calling Conrad out for years of quiet manipulation, for always being the favorite son, for holding Belly's heart even when she tried to give it to someone else. That fight? That's what fans have been waiting for since season 1. Because all this brotherly love is just a thin layer of politeness covering years of resentment. And season 4 could be the moment it all blows up. Jeremiah deserves that storyline. He deserves to stop being the backup plan and finally get the chance to fight for himself. Even if it gets ugly. But the thing is, Jeremiah's mess isn't the only ticking time bomb here. Let's not forget Taylor and Steven. Because if you think the show is going to just give them a clean, happy romance with no drama, you haven't been paying attention. These two had their flirtations, their obstacles, their slow build, and then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, they're together now, all good. Nope, too easy. Season 4 is going to test them. Maybe it's long distance, maybe it's jealousy. Maybe it's the fact that Steven still acts like a clown half the time, and Taylor doesn't have the patience for that. And if Jeremiah somehow gets tangled into their story again, since, hello, Taylor was once his crush, two things could spiral quickly. The writers love messy overlaps. And Steven and Taylor's so-called stability could easily be shaken if Jeremiah steps into the mix. Again, even accidentally. Now, while we're here, let's talk about the Fisher family because the parents have been way too quiet. Conrad and Jeremiah's dad, barely present. Laurel, almost invisible in season 3, and yet these are the people who shaped the kids, who watched them break each other's hearts, who probably have the strongest opinions about Belly bouncing from one brother to the other. You cannot tell me Laurel is just sitting back sipping wine, while her daughter repeats the same mistakes over and over again. Season 4 has to give us that confrontation. Laurel versus Belly, Laurel versus Conrad, maybe even Laurel versus Jeremiah. Because all season long, Laurel has been the silent judge, and if she finally opens her mouth, you know it's going to cut deep. I wouldn't be shocked if season 4 is the season where Belly finally gets called out. Not by her boyfriends, not by her friends, but by her own mom. And that would hit differently. And don't even get me started on Susanna's presence. Because even though she's gone, she still runs this story. Every single decision Conrad and Jeremiah make goes back to her words, her promises, her idea that Belly was meant for one of them. It's almost haunting at this point. Season 4 could finally show us the darker side of Susanna's influence. The way her dream actually messed up the boys' lives. Because let's be real, Susanna's prophecy wasn't romantic, it was a trap. She tied Belly to their family before any of them even knew who they were as people. That's not love, that's destiny forced on kids who didn't ask for it. And now, even years later, they're still stuck in her shadow. If season 4 is bold enough, it will finally make the characters face that truth. Maybe they even start questioning whether this triangle was ever really about love, or if it was about living up to Susanna's fantasy. And here's another thing nobody's talking about. What happens when real life starts knocking? Because Paris trips and cousins beach summers are cute. But eventually these kids have to face the real world. Jobs, bills, actual responsibilities. Belly can't just float around kissing brothers forever. Conrad has to decide who he wants to be outside of being the brooding son. Jeremiah has to figure out what kind of man he wants to become when he's not chasing Belly. Season 4 could finally pull them into adulthood, and that's where things get even messier. Because what if Belly realizes she's not actually ready for marriage, kids, all that serious stuff? What if Conrad wants it and she doesn't? Or what if Jeremiah starts building a new life and suddenly Belly wants to be a part of it again? The possibilities are endless, and none of them are simple. So, yeah, you can see why I don't buy that season 3 ending as the real finale. There's way too much left unsaid, way too many open wounds that haven't healed. And if season 4 does happen, it won't be about wrapping things up with a bow. No, it'll be about ripping the bow off completely and exposing the chaos underneath. Because let's be honest, The Summer I Turned Pretty isn't about perfect love stories. It's about the mess we make when we're young, the mistakes we can't take back, and the way those choices follow us forever. And season 4? That's where the mistakes finally catch up. Here's the thing though, everybody keeps talking about Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah like they're the only players in this game. But if season 4 happens, the circle is going to get way bigger. You think all those random side characters in season 3 were just filler? Nah, they were planted for a reason. Like Belly's Paris crew, those friends didn't just exist for decoration. They're proof that Belly is building a whole new identity outside of Cousins Beach. One where Conrad and Jeremiah aren't the center of her universe. And that's dangerous. Because if Belly starts leaning more on these new people, if she starts seeing a life that doesn't revolve around the Fisher brothers, then what happens? Do Conrad and Jeremiah lose their grip on her completely? Season 4 could be the first time Belly actually questions if she even wants this triangle anymore. Imagine her realizing, wait, I don't have to choose between Conrad and Jeremiah at all. I can actually walk away from both. That would flip everything upside down. But do I believe Belly would actually have the guts to do that? Honestly, no. Belly loves the drama too much. She thrives in the push and pull, in the longing stares, in being the one who has two brothers wrapped around her finger. And that's why she frustrates me. She wants stability, but the second she gets it, she's restless. That's why I can't see her happily settling into a normal, healthy relationship, not yet. And season 4 would expose that. Maybe she tells herself that Conrad is her forever, but deep down, is she really ready for forever? Or is she still addicted to the thrill of the chase, the tension, the what-ifs? Because let's be real, Belly's pattern is obvious. She jumps, she doubts, she regrets. And then she chases all over again. And if she doesn't break that cycle in season 4, then what are we even doing here? And then there's Conrad. Look, we all love to act like he's the safe bet, the more mature one. The one Belly was destined for. But let's be honest, Conrad is a ticking time bomb too. He's been suppressing his emotions since season 1, and if season 4 finally cracks him open, it's not going to be pretty. He might love Belly, sure, but he also resents her. He resents the way she jumped into Jeremiah's arms so quickly. He resents the way she made him feel like he wasn't enough, even though he always carried her in his heart. That resentment doesn't disappear just because they kissed in Paris, it festers. And when it comes out, it's going to be brutal. We could see a darker, angrier Conrad in season 4. The version of him that doesn't hold back anymore. And I don't know if Belly is ready for that. And if you think Jeremiah is just going to stand back and let that happen, think again. Because the truth is, Jeremiah's greatest strength is also his greatest weakness. He wears his heart on his sleeve. And when he sees Conrad failing Belly again, even in the smallest ways, he'll step in. That's who Jeremiah is. He wants to fix, he wants to comfort, he wants to be the safe space. And in doing that, he risks blowing everything wide open again. Because if Belly ever has one weak moment with Jeremiah, one moment where she doubts Conrad or feels misunderstood, you know Jeremiah will be there. And you know what happens next. History repeats itself, but let's zoom out for a second. Because I don't think season 4 is only about the romance. This show has always been about growing up. About that awkward transition between being a teenager and becoming an adult. And honestly, these characters are at the edge of that cliff. They're not kids anymore, but they're not really adults either. Season 4 could finally force them to face what adulthood really means. Like, how do you deal with heartbreak when you can't just run to Cousins Beach for the summer? How do you figure out your career, your future, while still carrying all this baggage from your teenage years? Belly, Conrad, Jeremiah, they're all standing at that crossroads. And the truth is, they might not all end up on the same path. And let's not ignore the symbolism of Cousins Beach itself. That place has always been the heart of the story, the magical backdrop where everything happens. But in season 3, Belly was in Paris, she was away from Cousins. And that shift mattered. It showed that the story can expand. That these characters can exist outside the safety of their summer bubble. So what if season 4 takes us even further? What if Cousins isn't the center anymore? What if Paris was just the beginning of Belly's new world? That would change the entire vibe of the show. Because Cousins has always been tied to Susanna, to childhood, to nostalgia. Moving away from it would mean moving away from the past, breaking free from all the ghosts. But are these characters actually ready to do that? Or are they still too attached to those memories? And here's something else I can't shake, Susanna's letter. In the books, that letter Belly reads at the wedding is a huge moment. It's closure. It's Susanna's final blessing. But in the show, we didn't get that. We didn't get Jeremiah's raw reaction to losing Belly, or the parents' reactions, or the weight of Susanna's words guiding them one last time. Which makes me think season 4 might save that letter. Maybe the showrunners didn't want to waste it in a rushed finale. Maybe they're holding it back for the true ending, one that mirrors the book more closely. And if that's the case, then season 4 isn't just speculation, it's inevitable. Because you can't leave out something that important and call the story complete. So if you ask me, season 4 is shaping up to be less of a romantic fairy tale and more of a reckoning. A reckoning with the past, with Susanna's influence. With all the lies and half-truths these characters told themselves just to survive. Belly will have to confront her own selfishness. Conrad will have to confront his anger. Jeremiah will have to confront his heartbreak. And only then will we see if any of them are actually capable of building a real, lasting future or if they're doomed to keep repeating the same cycle forever. And the scary part? I don't even know which way it's going to go. Because right now, it feels like this story could end in two ways, either with Belly finally breaking free and making a choice that's about her and her alone, or with her falling right back into the same mess, proving that Cousins Beach isn't a place you grow out of, it's a place you get stuck in. And that, honestly, might be the most realistic ending of all. The more I think about it, the more I realize season 4 would have no choice but to go darker. And I don't just mean sad breakups or a few tears. I mean pulling the curtain back on all the ugly truths this show has been dancing around for 3 whole seasons. Because let's be real, everything so far has been romanticized. Cousins Beach is always bathed in golden sunlight, Paris looked like a fairy tale. Even heartbreak is painted in soft music and dramatic stares. But if season 4 wants to actually mean something, it has to cut deeper. It has to show the cost of all these choices. Belly can't just keep bouncing back with another fresh start every time she breaks someone's heart. At some point, she's going to have to sit with the guilt, the regret, the reality that she hurt two brothers who trusted her. And if she doesn't, then honestly, she's the villain of this whole saga. And maybe season 4 is where we finally see Belly face that truth, not in a cute "oh, I made mistakes" monologue, but in a raw, messy way that actually changes her. And then there's Conrad. Everyone acts like him finally getting Belly is the big win. But I can't stop thinking, did he really win? Or did he just inherit the mess Jeremiah was already drowning in? Because sure, Belly chose him in the end, but she chose him after years of confusion. After stringing Jeremiah along, after nearly marrying his brother. That doesn't scream pure love story, that screams unfinished business. Conrad might be smiling on the outside, but inside, you know that insecurity is still eating at him. Like, does she really love me, or am I just the last man standing? And when that thought creeps in, it will, you better believe, it's going to cause cracks in their relationship. Conrad doesn't trust easily, not even himself, and Belly's track record isn't exactly trustworthy. Season 4 could be the season where those cracks finally split wide open. Jeremiah, on the other hand, is almost too quiet right now. And that's what scares me. Because Jeremiah is not a background character. He's not built to fade into the scenery. He's emotional, loud, impulsive. He acts before he thinks. And yet, season 3 tried to mute him, to shuffle him off into a side romance that made zero sense. You can't silence Jeremiah forever. At some point, he's going to snap. Maybe it's jealousy. Maybe it's anger at Conrad. Maybe it's heartbreak boiling over into rage. But whatever it is, season 4 could give us a Jeremiah we've never seen before, raw, unfiltered, and done with playing the nice guy. And honestly, that's exactly what the show needs. Because as much as we love the love triangle, it's been too polite, too restrained. These brothers should not be sitting across the table smiling awkwardly. While their hearts are breaking, they should be exploding. They should be fighting for real. And Jeremiah might be the one who finally lights that fire. But beyond the love triangle, I keep circling back to the parents. Laurel, Mr. Fisher, even Belly's dad, they've all been too quiet, too passive. And yet these are the people whose choices shaped everything. Mr. Fisher's absence, Susanna's prophecies, Laurel's protectiveness, they're the foundation this entire story rests on. Season 4 could be the moment they finally step in and say enough. Imagine Laurel confronting Mr. Fisher, blaming him for the way his sons are destroying each other. Imagine Mr. Fisher finally admitting how much guilt he carries for letting Susanna's dreams dictate his boys' lives. And imagine Belly's dad, who's always been on the sidelines, finally stepping in with his own perspective. Because one thing this show hasn't touched enough is how weird this situation looks from the outside. Like, Belly dating two brothers, bouncing between them, causing tension that rips apart a family. How would any parent actually react to that? You can't tell me they just shrug and move on. No, in season 4, the adults have to speak. And when they do, it could shake everything. And let's not ignore the possibility that season 4 introduces someone new. Because right now, Belly's entire world is Fisher-focused. But what happens if a new love interest walks in? Someone outside the Fisher family. Someone who doesn't carry all the baggage of the past 3 summers. That would be the ultimate test. Because if Belly truly loves Conrad, she'll stay firm. But if she's still addicted to the drama, she'll waver. And Conrad knows it. Jeremiah knows it. And honestly, I think Belly knows it too. Which is why throwing someone new into the mix could blow the story wide open. It's not about making the triangle a square, it's about forcing Belly to finally figure out if she's choosing love or if she's just addicted to the chaos of it all. And speaking of chaos, let's not forget about Cousins Beach itself. That house, that beach, that entire setting, it's a character on its own. And in season 3, we saw the house nearly slip away. But what if in season 4, it finally does? What if Cousins Beach is gone, sold off, taken away, erased from their lives? That would be the ultimate metaphor, the end of childhood, the end of the dream, the end of the summers where everything felt safe even when it wasn't. And once Cousins is gone, then what? Who are these characters without the beach, without the nostalgia, without the comfort of going back to the same place over and over again? That would force them to grow in ways they've been avoiding for years. And honestly, it might be the most painful, most necessary thing that could happen. And here's where it gets even scarier. What if season 4 doesn't end with a wedding, or a happy couple, or a clear winner? What if it ends with everyone realizing that the whole love triangle was never really about romance? It was about grief, about clinging to each other after Susanna's death, about trying to make sense of pain by turning it into love. And once they see that truth, once they accept it, maybe the real ending isn't Belly with Conrad or Jeremiah at all. Maybe the real ending is Belly finally standing on her own, breaking free from the cycle, and walking away. That would be bold. That would be heartbreaking. And honestly, that would be real. So yeah, if season 4 happens, don't expect sunshine and Paris kisses. Expect heartbreak. Expect anger. Expect the Fisher family finally imploding under the weight of everything they've been carrying. Because the truth is, the prettiest summer has always been the most dangerous one. And season 4? That's when it all burns down. If you've been keeping up, you know by now season 4 can't just be another summer fling rerun. It has to be the breaking point, the climax where every messy choice finally comes crashing down. Because let's be real, this story has been building to a full-on collapse since season 1. You don't juggle two brothers for years. You don't almost marry one while secretly loving the other without consequences. And season 4? That's where those consequences finally hit like a tidal wave. I can already see it. The cracks between Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah won't just be cracks anymore. They'll be full-blown fractures, splitting everything wide open until there's no going back. Here's the thing though, Belly's whole arc has always been about identity. She went from the awkward little sister tagging along to the girl every Fisher boy suddenly wanted. But deep down, has she ever really figured out who she is outside of them? Because think about it, every big moment in her life has been tied to either Conrad or Jeremiah. Paris with Conrad, heartbreak with Jeremiah, summers defined by whichever boy she's caught between. And as much as we love the drama, it's actually kind of sad. Belly has never had a season that was just about her. That's why if season 4 really wants to land, it has to strip her down to nothing. No romance safety net, no perfect love story. Just Belly staring at herself and asking, who am I without them? And that's terrifying but also necessary. Because otherwise, she's just trapped in the same loop forever, replaying the same summer with different window dressing. Now let's flip it, because Conrad and Jeremiah have their own reckoning coming too. Conrad might have won at the end of season 3, but did he really? Or is he just holding onto Belly like a lifeline because he's too afraid to lose her again? That kind of love isn't steady, it's fragile, desperate, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And Jeremiah, man, he's a storm waiting to explode. They tried to calm him down, push him into the background. But come on, this is Jeremiah we're talking about. He's too raw, too impulsive, too passionate to stay silent forever. Sooner or later, he's going to come roaring back into the picture, and when he does, it won't be pretty. Season 4 could give us the Jeremiah we've been missing, the one who stops smiling through the pain and actually fights back, not just for Belly, but for himself. And honestly, I think that version of Jeremiah might be the most dangerous one yet. But here's the twist nobody's ready for. What if season 4 doesn't end with a couple at all? Everyone's been waiting for the final answer, Team Conrad or Team Jeremiah. But what if the writers flipped the script completely? What if the whole point was that neither brother is the answer? Because if you peel back the romance, this story has always been about loss, about Susanna, about growing up, about watching your safe little world crumble and trying to hold onto anything that makes the pain go away. Belly and the Fisher boys weren't just in love, they were grieving together, clinging to each other like broken pieces of the same puzzle. And maybe the true ending isn't who gets the girl, but all of them realizing they can't fix grief with romance. They can't heal by repeating the same mistakes every summer. Maybe the boldest ending would be Belly finally walking away from both. Not because she doesn't love them, but because she finally loves herself more. And that's what makes season 4 so dangerous. because it could either give fans the clean, happy bout-eyed ending they think they want, or it could rip the rug out and leave us all gutted. Imagine Belly choosing neither brother, Jeremiah spiraling into rage, Conrad left hollow, the Fisher family shattered beyond repair. It would hurt, but it would also be real. Because life doesn't always give you that perfect movie ending. Sometimes you're left with nothing but memories, mistakes, and the hope you'll do better next time. And maybe that's the real grown-up summer, finally facing the truth instead of chasing the fantasy. Still, part of me thinks they won't go that far. Because let's be honest, this show thrives on shipping wars. Conrad versus Jeremiah has fueled every episode, every tweet, every midnight debate since the beginning. So chances are season 4 will give us a winner. But even if it does, it won't be clean. It won't be sweet. It'll be messy, ugly, bittersweet as hell. Because at this point, there's no way for Belly to choose one without leaving scars on the other. And scars don't just fade. They stay, they haunt. And they'll haunt all of us too, because deep down, we've all been rooting for both brothers in different ways. Losing one will always feel like a loss for us too. So yeah, if season 4 really happens, buckle up. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be simple. It's going to be the season where the Fisher dream finally collapses and everyone has to face who they really are without the golden haze of Cousins Beach. Belly will either rise or break. Conrad will either hold on or fall apart. Jeremiah will either step into his power or burn everything down, and us? We'll be left screaming at our screens, wishing for one more summer even as we know it's finally truly over, because that's the truth. Every pretty summer has an end.